Welcome to The Eye Opener. I'm your host, Michael Lewis. America's rising inflation is sounding alarm bells. The Biden administration may end up hitting the most vulnerable in society first if it leaves its spending unchecked. Biden ended Trump's efforts to ban Chinese social media apps, saying they'll do their own probe. Is this for national security or just political theater? A new study shows hydroxychloroquine is highly effective in treating COVID-19. So was Trump right all along? The hand count of Arizona's audit is on track to wrap up in a few days. Officials are expecting big discrepancies in the ballots. Okay, my friends, let's take a closer look together. Joe Biden has ended the negotiation with Republican Senator Shelley Capito after failing to reach common ground on the infrastructure proposal. Biden and Capito had been meeting for weeks, but the talk got snagged on funding priorities and whether tax hikes should be part of the deal. Biden said he told the senator the GOP's counteroffer didn't meet the country's essential needs of restoring roads and bridges, clean energy, and more jobs. But is it really so? Biden's plan only has $159 billion dedicated to roads and bridges, while the GOP proposed $506 billion. What Biden really means is that there's not enough investment in the Green New Deal. During the negotiations, Biden rolled back his plan to $1.7 trillion, but insisted on tax increases to pay for the plan. However, there's still a $700 million gap from what the Republicans had offered. This isn't the end of negotiations for Biden, though. He's continuing talks with a different group. About 20 senators, including Democrat Kyrsten Sinema, Joe Manchin, and Republican Bill Cassidy. Biden spoke with the trio on Tuesday and urged them to develop a bipartisan plan that meets his targets for infrastructure. At the same time, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is preparing to push through legislation via budget reconciliation. Both Biden and Schumer have been hoping to bypass the filibuster to pass the measure before the 2022 midterms. All these massive spending plans will make everything more expensive. Deutsche Bank has sounded the alarm too. A new report released Monday warns with increased government spending and relaxed monetary policies, America may be headed towards one of its worst periods of inflation in history. Deutsche suggests there are mistakes in the Biden administration's policy. It says history has taught us that social costs of high inflation and expanded debt serving make it hard, if not impossible, to reach what the new U.S. administration is keen to achieve. The bank says people at the bottom of the society will be hit first. The report also took an opposing view to the belief that the rise in inflation will be temporary. It says, never before have we seen such coordinated expansionary fiscal and monetary policy. The effects could be devastating, particularly for the most vulnerable in society. If this is true, the Biden administration isn't helping the socially disadvantaged groups under the scenario of a long-lasting high inflation environment. But it's not only that. The most vulnerable, the blacks and the Hispanics, that the current administration claims to want to help the most, may have to compete with hundreds of thousands or millions of new illegal immigrants for jobs. In May, the Border Patrol encountered 180,000 illegal immigrants at the U.S.-Mexico border, the highest number by far. The number of unaccompanied minors fell to 14,000 from 17,000 in April and 19,000 in March. Nonetheless, May's numbers was still the third highest. Back in Washington, the White House asked 6 humanitarian groups to help deal with the migrant surge. They will assist in deciding which individuals and families will be granted asylum. 4 of the groups are foreign organizations, 3 from Mexico and 1 from London. So now the U.S. is relying heavily on foreign entities to say who should remain in the U.S.? This just proves that the Immigration Department doesn't know what it's doing. Although criteria for asylum hasn't been made public, reports claim that Biden's administration intends to admit up to 250 asylum seekers per day. Raimundo Tamayo, director of the International Rescue Committee in Mexico, said help will come first to those facing extreme life-threatening situations. However, Homeland Security will have the final say. During her first foreign trip, Kamala Harris keeps blaming problems in Central America for the border crisis. She told reporters during a joint press conference with the Mexican president, quote, "I want to be very clear that the problem at the border in large part, if not entirely, stems from the problems in these countries. I cannot say it enough. most people don't want to leave home. Harris's trip was a diplomatic effort to address the alleged root causes of the migrant surge, which include poverty, corruption, economic instability, and extreme weather in the region. However, it wasn't like these problems occurred overnight. They didn't suddenly emerge after Biden took office. The migrant surge did, which is a direct result of Biden's open border policy. Moreover, migrants are not only coming from Northern Triangle countries. Since October 2020, the Border Patrol has apprehended nearly 1 million illegal immigrants from 70 countries. Among these, the number of Venezuelans crossing the border illegally increased by over 80 times. It's true that the Venezuelans are escaping Nicolas Maduro's horrible communist regime. Yet, it was the March 8th announcement that the temporary protected status will be granted to Venezuelans already in the United States. That triggered the surge. There are more than 100 developing countries in the world, and many of them have serious issues. Do you think the United States should welcome the citizens from all these countries? It's just not reasonable. On Tuesday, when asked how quickly her diplomatic changes will affect what we see at the border, Harris answered, "There's not going to be a quick fix. We're not going to see an immediate return. The real work is going to take time to manifest itself." So how long do you expect it will take the U.S. to solve poverty, corruption, economic instability, and extreme weather around the world? Now, we're not saying we shouldn't make the effort to address the issues, but these problems will probably exist forever. And frankly speaking, it's even a challenge to solve some of these problems in our own country. After all, unless you want the border situation to last, the Biden administration should immediately fix its immigration and border policies. Now, before we continue, please hit that like button and subscribe. And most importantly, share this video with your friends and family. Word of mouth is the most effective way to spread the truth. And today, I have the pleasure of toasting to yet another amazing eye-opener supporter. He goes by the username of ToneBone721. T-Bone posted his pic in the Telegram eye-opener chat room, enjoying his mug that matters. And with that, my friends, let's grab our mugs and let me say thank you to ToneBone721 and to all of you watching the show. Your support is greatly appreciated. Salute. A study republished by medRxiv shows hydroxychloroquine is highly effective in treating COVID-19. The study was based on an analysis of 255 patients on ventilators during the first 2 months of the pandemic in the United States. It found that the use of weight-adjusted hydroxychloroquine improved the survival of ventilated COVID-19 patients by nearly 200%. However, when former President Trump said he had been taking the drug as a preventative measure, mainstream media exploded. Journalists, Democrats, and left-wing activists were denouncing the idea by firing claims such as the FDA has not approved it, it could cause life-threatening effects, adopting the audacity of false hope. Some even said it was reckless and it would kill you. In June 2020, mainstream news published the following: FDA revokes emergency use authorization for chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine. However, this message was misleading, as it was worded in a way that implied the drug was no longer approved. It had been, quote, revoked. What actually happened was the emergency use restrictions was lifted by the FDA. Now, what does that mean? There's no more restrictions on this drug. Hydroxychloroquine is approved by the FDA to be used anywhere, anytime, by any licensed physician. If it wasn't clear at that time, it's crystal clear now that the media attack on Trump for recommending the drug was a political act. During the early days of the pandemic, hydroxychloroquine was widely used. From March 2020 to mid-May 2020, physicians throughout the Hackensack Meridian Health System used the drug to treat outpatients with mild symptoms. Of the more than 100 people who received the therapy, 1 in 5 ended up in the hospital. That's significantly lower than the rate of the 1 in 3 from the group who didn't receive the drug. Dr. Andrew Imp, a lymphoma expert, noted their study was only observational and they could only recommend the drug in the context of a clinical trial. However, what the study found contradicted the many claims that led to the termination of hydroxychloroquine's use. The drug appeared to be safe with no reports of heart problems, which are potential side effects suggested by the FDA. Anything that could possibly treat COVID-19 should be thoroughly studied because it can save lives. However, this didn't happen to hydroxychloroquine. Mainstream media ruled out this drug. The unique consequences of the media's outrage over hydroxychloroquine was it influenced medical advice and discouraged Americans from seeking certain treatments that could be highly effective in combating the disease. On June 9th, Biden signed an executive order that reversed former President Trump's plan to ban Chinese social media apps, including TikTok and WeChat. Biden called for their own review of any foreign-owned apps. He directed the Secretary of Commerce and the Director of National Intelligence and other top U.S. agency officials to provide reports on potential risks the apps have on personal data and national security. The order did note that such apps may present an undue or unacceptable risk to the national security of the United States and the American people. Unnamed Biden administration officials told the Wall Street Journal that Biden's executive order is designed to replace Trump's order with a more comprehensive process targeting apps that may have connections to foreign adversaries, including the CCP. We hope Biden is prioritizing national security over his dislike of his predecessor. Earlier, Biden shut down the Trump-era investigation into the COVID-19 origins and allegedly launched a new one. Despite threats being banned in the U.S., TikTok was the fastest growing app in 2020. The video sharing social media surpassed Instagram in the number of Generation Z users. Generation Z, also known as Gen Z, refers to the generation born between 1997 and 2012. This generation has been raised on the internet and social media. TikTok is projected to reach 37 million Gen Z users and 78 million users in total this year. But most of these Gen Z users don't know or don't care to know that TikTok is owned by ByteDance, a multinational tech company headquartered in Beijing. ByteDance is now the world's richest, quote, private company, but wasn't until 2016 and the launch of an app called Douyin that made the company successful. Douyin hit 100 million users and expanded outside of China in September 2017 with a new name, TikTok. Around that time, Musical.ly was doing well in America. ByteDance recognized its potential, it purchased Musical.ly, combined it with TikTok, and it became the most popular video sharing app we know today. But TikTok has been controversial since the beginning. Chinese law states that any company with servers in mainland China has to share data with the Chinese Communist Party. TikTok collects way more data than it needs to. The app collects biometric data on its users, including fingerprints and face prints. It also does GPS tracking. All this information is in the hands of the CCP. Of course, the app also censors posts expressing issues with the party. Leaked documents have already proved TikTok moderators were instructed to remove posts about sensitive political topics in China, such as the 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre, the 2019 Hong Kong protests, and the Uyghur genocide. Because of the app's close connection with Beijing, Trump took executive action targeting ByteDance. The former president also attempted to force the sale of TikTok. But these efforts were blocked by several federal court orders. With Biden taking charge, will he continue the path to ban the apps? So far, it looks like we've only seen more political theater than actual action to defend national security. The entire country is watching Arizona's audit. To date, 6 states, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Colorado, Alaska, Virginia, and Nevada, have made the trek to study Arizona's historic audit process. Arizona Republicans are now encouraging every state to send a delegation to learn, as it will all be over with only 3 pallets of ballots left to count. Arizona Senate President Karen Fann said she's heard from lawmakers in other states keeping a close watch on the effort. Pennsylvania State Senator Doug Mastriano told Real America's Voice that an Arizona-style audit in Pennsylvania could happen by July.
I think probably the soonest, if we jumped on it and if we had the support with the majority of the members in any committee we do this from and from the body itself, probably July you could see it, which timing-wise would be pretty good because that's about the time Arizona's wrapping up, ostensibly. And then we could roll right in to see what happened in Pennsylvania. And like you rightly said, this is about transparency. This is to find out what the heck happened and were the results as what we were told.
On the other side, Democrat Secretary of State Katie Hobbs continues to denounce the audit and the private audit firms for alleged rule violations. Those firms, particularly Cyber Ninjas, had been criticized as biased and inexperienced. The audit was approved by the court. Are the Democrats trying to discredit the audit because they themselves are expecting huge ballot discrepancies like the Republicans? Please be patient. We'll find out the answers in a few more weeks. And that's it for today, my friends. Check out this playlist right here for more eye-opening content. You can join me in our Eye Opener Telegram chat room and follow me on Newmaker, Gab, and Parler. Don't forget to sign up to the email list so that we can stay in touch. I want to thank you all, and I'll see ya next time.